June 1st, you will pay more for groceries than you did last month. Not because of the war, not because of the tariffs, for a third reason, and it is not on the front page. At 8:30 this morning, the Bureau of Labor Statistics published the April Consumer Price Index. 3.8% annual inflation, the highest reading since May 2023. Food at home rose 0.7% in a single month, the biggest one-month grocery jump since August 2022. And at the same time, in a separate data set, the headlines did not pair with this one. 4.3 million Americans have lost their grocery cards over the past 12 months. SNAP, food stamps, EBT. Those two numbers collide at your checkout aisle on June 1st. Here is exactly how, and the three items worth buying this weekend before the wave reaches retail. By the end of this video, three things. First, the 5 mechanisms that move 4.3 million missing grocery carts into your grocery bill, sourced from the Bureau of Labor Statistics' April Consumer Price Index report, U.S. Department of Agriculture data on SNAP participation released this month, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities SNAP Tracker, the National Grocers Association forecast, and Numerator's Verified Shopper dataset. Second, the exact week each one reaches the shelf at your local store. Not someday, not eventually, the week. Third, the 3 items worth buying this weekend before the wave reaches retail. By minute 11, you have the map. By minute 12, the action plan. Start with what actually happened in the last 10 months. On July 4th, 2025, President Trump signed Public Law 119-21, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. $186 billion cut from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program over 10 years. The Harvard Kennedy School calls it the largest reduction in the history of the program, a 20% cut. The Congressional Budget Office confirmed the figure. The law expanded work requirements. Adults up to age 64, instead of 54, must now document 80 hours per month of work, training, or volunteering, or lose benefits after 3 months in any 3-year period. Parents with kids over 14 lost their exemption. So did veterans. So did formerly homeless adults. So did young adults aging out of foster care. Most states began enforcement on March 1st. March, April, May. Those are the 3 carryover months. June 1st is the first month the checks shrink for non-compliance. And while that timeline was running, something else was happening in parallel. According to preliminary USDA data, between January 2025 and January 2026, 4.3 million Americans were already off SNAP, from 42.8 million participants to 38.6 million, a 10% drop in 12 months. 3.4 million of that came after the law passed in July. Now the part that almost no one is reading. The headlines treat this as a story about other people. Other people lost benefits. Other households need to recertify. Other grocery shoppers face a tightening budget. That framing is wrong. The Numerator Verified Shopper dataset shows that Walmart captures 24% of all SNAP dollar spending in the United States. Kroger captures 8%, Costco 6%, Amazon 5%, Sam's Club 4%. SNAP accounts for roughly 12% of total U.S. grocery sales overall, according to the National Grocers Association. But at any given grocery store serving a low-income urban or rural area, that number runs as high as 70% of register transactions. When 4.3 million carts disappear from those registers, and another 2.4 million are projected to follow in an average month over the next decade, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the grocers do not eat the loss. They reprice. They consolidate SKUs. They cut store brand alternatives. The National Grocers Association forecasts a 6.7% average sales hit across U.S. grocers over the next 6 months. 6.7% of revenue does not get absorbed silently. It gets passed to the shopper still standing at the register. That shopper is you. Quick pause here. I want to know what your last grocery receipt looked like compared to this same month last year. Same store, same cart, same brands. Comment below, higher or lower, and by how much. That is the data the BLS is not collecting from your kitchen. Now the 5 paths the missing 4.3 million carts take into your grocery bill, in the order each one reaches your local store. 1. SKU consolidation, already on shelves. Post-consumer brands, Tyson, Conagra, Kraft Heinz, General Mills. These 5 manufacturers see roughly 7 to 11% of their volume passing through SNAP transactions. Numerator measured it directly. Post-consumer brands, 10.6% of trips. Tyson, 8.4. Conagra, 7.7. Kraft Heinz, 7.5. General Mills, 7.3. Frito-Lay, 7.2. Smucker's, 6.8. Bernstein Research puts the broader picture this way. Nearly 9% of all food-at-home spending in the United States comes from SNAP households. When volume drops, low-margin SKUs disappear first. Store-brand budget cereals, value-pack canned protein, generic crackers. The category survives. The cheapest tier exits the shelf. 2. Bulk pricing reset, 2 to 3 weeks. Grocers renegotiate quarterly supply contracts based on volume forecasts. SNAP-heavy categories, cereal, canned protein, frozen value meals, store-brand dairy, lose negotiating leverage when projected volume drops. The new wholesale price flows to the shelf on the next quarterly reset. Walmart's earnings call on May 21st is the first public signal. 3. Cross-subsidy collapse, 3 to 6 weeks. A grocer running on 3% margins uses high-volume SNAP categories to underwrite shelf space for thinner-margin specialty items. When SNAP volume drops, the cross-subsidy breaks. Specialty items get repriced upward or pulled. Affected categories: ethnic foods, gluten-free, organic produce in standard chains, store-brand premium lines. 4. Promotional pullback, 6 to 10 weeks. Weekly circular discounts, BOGO offers, loyalty card markdowns. All of them are funded by manufacturer promotional budgets sized to SNAP-weighted volume. As volume shrinks, manufacturers pull promotional spend first. The same items remain on the shelf. The price you pay for them drifts upward. 5. Store closures, rural first, 3 to 12 months. In rural counties, where one grocery store serves a 60-mile radius and SNAP runs above 30% of total transactions, the math does not survive a 6.7% revenue hit. Closures concentrate in rural Georgia, rural Mississippi, rural Tennessee, rural West Virginia. The next nearest grocer is 40 to 90 minutes away and absorbs the displaced demand at the price it chooses. In May, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities published a state-level SNAP tracker. Arizona, 42% of its SNAP recipients gone in the federal data. 51% in Arizona's own state data, which is more recent. Tennessee, 12%. Virginia, 12%. Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Kansas, Louisiana, Massachusetts, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, all down more than 10% in 8 months. 36 states have lost 5% or more of their SNAP rolls since the law took effect. Almost 1/3 of the national decline comes from 3 states alone: Arizona, Florida, and Georgia. That is the American Enterprise Institute reading the USDA Food and Nutrition Service data directly, not an advocacy group, not the opposition party. A right-leaning think tank, working from the same federal file the Agriculture Department releases every month. The unemployment rate has been flat at 4% through this whole window. The economy is not getting suddenly worse for 42 million people in 8 months. The rules changed. The roles dropped. The grocer revenue is dropping next. None of those state agencies coordinated with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The BLS publishes the Consumer Price Index from a different building, on a different schedule, with a different mandate. This morning's 3.8% inflation print did not name SNAP. The SNAP data released this month did not name CPI. The two numbers are on a collision course, and the federal apparatus that produces them does not pair them. That pairing is your job, or it is mine right now. In March, Wolf Research's chief economist Stephanie Roth told CNBC that the fertilizer disruption through the Strait of Hormuz could raise food-at-home inflation by roughly 2 percentage points above the baseline. That projection is now stacking with a SNAP-driven volume shock the model never included. The Yale Budget Lab's April analysis projects a household income loss of $760 to $1,500 from tariffs alone in 2026. That projection also did not include the SNAP overlay. And then there is the tariff pass-through itself. JP Morgan estimated that in 2025, U.S. businesses absorbed about 80% of the tariff cost. Consumers paid the remaining 20%. In 2026, JP Morgan expects that ratio to invert, 80% to the consumer, 20% to the business. The cushion is gone. Put the three together. 1. The war in the Strait of Hormuz is still raising food costs at the wholesale level, with the fertilizer cascade landing in the harvest cycle starting late summer. Saudi Arabia and Iran together export the majority of the world's urea and a large share of its sulfur, the raw inputs to nitrogen fertilizer. When fertilizer moves slower, yields drop. When yields drop, wholesale food prices rise. That clock has been running since late February. 2. The Section 122 tariffs are passing through to retail at roughly 80% in 2026 versus 20% in 2025. The cushion is gone. JP Morgan's research desk made the call back in January. Most major grocery chains have been telegraphing the shift on earnings calls ever since. 3. The SNAP volume drop hits grocer revenue inside the next 6 months, and grocers reprice the shelf to recover margin. The same item on the same shelf in the same store costs more in June than in May, because 3 different systems are simultaneously moving the price up, and none of them stops in time for the next register transaction. And not one of the 3 is in the front page CPI summary you read this morning. You do not need to read the BLS report each month to feel that. You just need to know what to put in your cart this weekend. Now the action plan. 3 items worth buying this weekend while the wave is still in the wholesale layer. 1. SNAP-heavy store brands. Walmart's Great Value, Kroger's Private Selection, Aldi's House Lines, Costco's Kirkland. These are the brands that draw heavily on SNAP volume to anchor shelf placement. Buy a 30 to 60-day supply of the staple items your household actually uses. Pasta, rice, canned tomato, canned tuna, peanut butter, oats, bread flour, frozen vegetables. When SKUs consolidate in the next 6 weeks, the cheapest tier within store brands disappears first. Lock in the current price tag on the cheapest version of each. 2. Manufacturer of record canned protein. Tyson canned chicken. Hormel canned ham and stews. Bumblebee tuna and sardines. Conagra Hunt's tomatoes. These 5 manufacturers carry 7 to 11% of their U.S. retail volume through SNAP transactions. Their promotional spending on these specific SKUs gets pulled first when manufacturers respond to volume drops. Buy a 60 to 90-day reserve. Canned protein keeps for 2 to 5 years in cool, dry storage. 3. Frozen value pack vegetables and frozen meals from store brands. 8 to 12 weeks of freezer space worth. The frozen aisle is the single category where store brand specialty items get pulled before national brands when cross-subsidy breaks. Buy now while the freezer aisle still has the full assortment your household recognizes from last month's shopping list. 2 notes on what not to do. Don't, number 1, do not panic buy fresh produce. Fresh fruit and vegetables move on a different timeline. The fertilizer cascade from the Strait of Hormuz, landing at harvest. The June 1st wave is wholesale pricing driven, hitting shelf-stable categories first. Fresh produce gets repriced on a different clock, and stockpiling perishables wastes money on spoilage before the wave arrives. Don't, number 2. Do not assume your local store has the same assortment in July. The SKU consolidation in Mechanism 1 is not a price story. It is an availability story. The specific cheapest version of an item you grew up buying may not be on the shelf 8 weeks from now, even if the category is. Catalog what you actually pull off the shelf this weekend. Photograph the labels. You will not remember by August. If this video gave you the map you needed, share it now with the people who are important to you. The ones who need to know this before they walk into a grocery store next weekend. Not next month, not after the news catches up. Now. One last thought. The Bureau of Labor Statistics did its job. The U.S. Department of Agriculture did its job. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities did its job. Each one published clean numbers on schedule. Each one stamped its release with the date and the contact email and the methodology footnote. And not one of them pairs the numbers. The system that measures inflation and the system that measures food assistance participation are 2 different systems, governed by 2 different sets of rules, run by 2 different sets of people, sitting in 2 different buildings. There is no interagency working group whose job is to tell the American shopper that those 2 data sets collide at the checkout aisle on June 1st. There is no White House briefing scheduled to walk through what 80% tariff pass-through, plus a 4.3 million SNAP rollback, plus a Hormuz fertilizer overlay actually does to a Walmart receipt. There is this video. The food clock from the Strait of Hormuz does not reset when the strait opens. The tariff check at Walmart's loading dock does not reset the shelf price. And the 4.3 million missing grocery cards do not reset because the BLS report comes out on a different Tuesday than the USDA participation file. 3 different clocks, 1 register, your register. That is the part the headlines are missing. If this is the kind of decoding you want, every news event mapped onto your pantry, anchored in primary sources, no filler, subscribe.